Hey guys, this is Tirelis here with another Warlords of Draenor beta video. In this video I'm going to be looking at the last of the healing specs for priests in Holy Priest. I'm going to be looking at their major changes, their changed, new, and removed abilities, their new and removed glyphs, their new Draenor perks, and then finally their new and changed talents. So first off, the major changes to Holy Priest really comes in the form of chakras. Blizzard didn't like how so much of chakras was built into, having, that passive effect, that passive AoE healing buff, and that passive, single target healing buff. They wanted to push it more from those passives and into their actual active abilities and interacting with specific abilities. So, for an example, Chakra Sanctuary here, there's been more power put into Holy Word Sanctuary, and they had the interaction of, each heal cast while Chakra is active reduces the remaining cooldown on your circle of healing by 1 second. So it's got interaction, and it's got more power into the Holy Word aspect of that chakra. They didn't want to punish you as much as it seemed when you were in the wrong chakra for Holy Priest. So it's a big overhaul, I guess you could say, for priests in general. Chakras are their main thing now. So just kind of a quality of life, because there were always times in which you would be in the wrong chakra state and it wouldn't work out. So it's just kind of made things a lot better for priests to handle their chakras. And as you notice in the bottom right hand corner, it says a 10-second cooldown. That's actually going to be a Draenor perk that we talk about. So you're going to be able to switch in and out of chakras, and it's going to make things a lot better. Second major change is that Renew has been returned to a normal 1.5 global cooldown. You can still blanket with Renews across the raid, but it's not ideal unless you have a lot of haste. This was done because with a change to heal, which we'll discuss in a second, the healing classes have their individuality back to some degree. And blanketing the raid in HOTS is a Resto Druid type of ability. HOTS is their thing. So you can still do it, but it's not, something that's ideal unless you have a lot of haste. Another major change comes to the level 90 talents and Prayer of Mending. They now have a cast time, which is really frustrating. I really loved Prayer of Mending without a cast time, so now it has cast time, and it really is annoying. As you can see, I had to cast there for Prayer of Mending, and I have to cast for Halo. They did this because they wanted to reduce the mobility that healers have across the board in Warlords of Draenor. Priests got hit in the level 90 talents and Prayer of Mending. Other classes got hit in other places. So basically, you're going to have to deal with being a little bit more immobile in Warlords of Draenor. They didn't like how, not just priests, but any healing class was able to just continuously run and still be able to pull off all full heals. So that's no longer going to be a thing in Warlords of Draenor. Know that Powered Shield now can critical strike and multi-strike. That was a part of Discipline before, and now it's a part of, every spec now of priests. They just wanted to add it in for everyone. I could go through and try and pull off a crit on one of these mobs, but just know that they can all crit and multi-strike. And multi-strike is going to be a big portion of Holy Priest, which we will get to also in a second. Before we get into their new abilities, I want to talk about a major one that was removed, which was Heal. Heal, technically, the name is still in game, but the spell is gone. Heal was a part of that 3-tier system that was introduced in Cataclysm, where you had the short, fast, powerful heal that cost a lot of mana in Flash Heal. And then you had the long, lengthy heal that literally did no healing, but was really mana efficient. And then you had the big, powerful heal. Well, that big, powerful heal, which was Greater Heal, has been renamed Heal and put into the equation. And then Flash Heal is still the same as it was before. And the idea is that you now have, instead of having that 3-tier system with just 3 spells, you now have a set of spells that are mana efficient, and then you have a set of spells that are mana inefficient, or healing throughput spells. And in this case, just as an example, Flash Heal is your healing throughput spell, whereas Heal is going to be your mana efficient heal. Major change, it brings back spec individuality, and so that's why things like Renew was changed, is because they now have that flexibility to bring back spec individuality. Holy Priests are going to be the AoE healers of the bunch. Like, they just have an amazing amount of mana efficient AoE healing capabilities, and then they have their chakras, so that is going to be the niche of a Holy Priest. So they have one new ability, and that is Divine Providence, and it will give your stat gain from Multi-Strike, which will be your main stat. All classes are getting that secondary stats gain. But the important part is that it also increases the damage and healing of your multi-strikes by 25%. So it also emphasizes the fact that multi-strike further is kind of really important to a Holy Priest, and that is what you will be stacking first before you even touch any of the other secondary stats like haste or, crit, etc. There are several changed abilities. We already discussed about how the chakras have lost their flat healing capability. Know that Chakra Serenity will no longer, Cascade will no longer be able to refresh the duration of your renew on the target, so just know that. Circle of Healing is now a 12-second cooldown, up from 10. Focused Will, whenever you take damage, you gain Focused Will, reducing all damage taken by 15%. Lasting for 8 seconds. It stacks up to 2 seconds. The change in here is that it no longer has to be 5% or more of your health in damage. It can just be any damage. You take any damage, you gain a stack. So it's definitely a buff. It's actually to compensate for something that you lost, but it's definitely a buff to Holy Priests. Holy Word Chastise, know that it shares diminishing returns with all other mesmerized effects. So if a warlock succubus uses seduction on a target, and then you use Holy Word Chastise, you're going to have diminishing returns. That's under the big diminishing return umbrella of mesmerized effects, and both of those fall underneath it. Holy Fire now lasts 9 seconds, up from 7 seconds, so that's a major change. Take a look at the new change for Lightwell. It's actually pretty cool. Go ahead and use it here. It's going to fire out all over the place. I mean, that's one of your mana efficient heals. It is a cooldown, but still, it's pretty awesome. And then you also have Divine Hymn, which now hits every target in range, instead of before it was only just, a little bit. There wasn't a there wasn't a restriction on the Divine Hymn. Now it hits all targets. So as you can see there, I hit literally every training dummy, healing dummy in range. Also, you should know about Lightwell is that it no longer can be cancelled. There used to be a portion where like 30% damage or so it would get cancelled. Now that's not the case anymore. It'll keep sending out that healing no matter what, and you'll get those heals on you no matter what. Shadow Fiend, know that Shadow Fiend no longer regenerates mana. Blizzard has taken all mana regenerating effects out of the game. They want you to really pay attention to your mana. Now that you have a pool of mana efficient spells and a pool of mana inefficient spells, you're going to have to just play with them back and forth to keep your rate up, but also make sure that you manage your mana. You're really going to have to pay attention to your mana in Warlords of Draenor. So Shadow Fiend, you will not be able to be bailed out by Shadow Fiend or Innervate or anything like that. It's all gone. So you'll have to deal with it. That leaves us with the removed abilities for Holy Priests. The first is that Divine Focus is gone, which was your pushback reduction when taking damaging attacks. Hymn of Hope, as mentioned with Shadow Fiend, removed from the game. You're going to have no any type of I ran out of mana. You're just going to be described as a bad healer. That's basically it. You can have a mana pot, but that's it. If people see you at the bottom of your mana bar after a fight, and all the other healers are like midway through their mana bars, they're just going to point at you and say you're a bad healer. That's going to be, what it is. No matter what your healing per second is, because if you run out of mana, when the boss is only at 40%, you're not putting out any more healing, so it doesn't matter. Inner Fire and Inner Will have both been removed. As I said in this video, I didn't really like putting on my boots before I tying my shoes before I actually got out of the graveyard in a battleground setting. That's what it was. All the self buffs from the game have been removed. The only ones that stayed They stay on you through death, so you don't have to keep reapplying them. But for the most part, they've just all been removed. That's why the focused will chain is there, because you no longer have inner fire, inner will. As a kind of, it wasn't a huge defensive burst, but it did give you, some type of help in a PvP setting, whether it be movement speed or armor. Know that Void Shift is gone. You will no longer be able to switch back and forth between those healths. Not back and forth, but you will no longer be able to swap healths anymore. Shadow Word Death, thankfully, is now only Shadow. I got tired of my Priest Fen stealing my killing blows, as I mentioned in this video. He will not be able to do that anymore. And lastly, Evangelism is gone. It is now going to be disc only, so you do not have to worry about that. There are several new glyphs for Holy Priest. Actually, quite a few, I believe. So we'll go ahead and pull them up. First is going to be Glyph of Guardian Spirit. Guardian Spirit increases the healing on a target by an additional 200%, but no longer prevents the target's death. I see this being used a lot in PvE, not so much in PvP, because that preventing the death really is nice, but, burst phase coming, Guardian Spirit up, I need to heal a lot, etc. Especially with Holy Priests being so AoE oriented, it'll be nice to have something to really push out their single target healing. There's Glyph of Restored Faith, which is Leap of Faith now pulls your target to you instead of pulling the target to you. So it's like an intervene for priests. I still said that right. Leap of Faith pulls you to your target instead of pulling your target to you. Whew, mouthful. So it's an intervene for priests. Noted that it's exclusive with Glyph of Leap of Faith. So you will only be able to have one or the other. You cannot have both of them active at the same time. There's Glyph of the Inquisitor, which is your holy fire deals 25% additional initial damage, but 20% of that damage is also dealt back to you. There is Glyph of the Redeemer. All your healing is increased by 50% while your Spirit of Redemption is active. There is Glyph of Shadow Magic, which for 5 seconds after activating Fade, you are immune to silence and interrupt effects, but the cooldown on Fade is increased by 60 seconds. It's a nice little PvP glyph that people are going to be looking at there. And then lastly, there is Glyph of Purification, which Purify now has a maximum of 2 charges, but its cooldown is increased by 4 seconds. So, you can, I really like this. It gives you that flexibility. If you need to use it twice, you can. But it's going to be like a 12-second cooldown now instead of 8 seconds. So just pay attention to it, but I think that's something that people will really look at taking. You lost Glyph of Holy Nova, and that's because that has now become a disc-only ability. It's baseline for them. Disc was lacking a mana-efficient AoE heal, so that is what they got to compensate for that. The new Draenor perks for a Holy Priest, not too bad. The big one I already told you, which is really cool, and that is Enhanced Chakras. Reduces the cooldown of your chakras by 20 seconds. So you have a 10-second cooldown on all your chakras. You can flip back and forth between them, every 10 seconds. Definitely nice to have that. There is Enhanced Focused Will, which each application of Focused Will also increases your damage dealt by 5%, so you'll not only be taking less damage, but you can dish out more. There is Enhanced Leap of Faith, which your Leap of Faith also increases your next non-periodic heal cast on that target by 50% for 10 seconds. And then lastly, there's Enhanced Renew, which increases the duration of your renew by 3 seconds. Kind of an okay one. Really the best one there is Enhanced Chakras. You can go back and forth between the two. And, switch when you need to get those heals off, etc. So, those are the Draenor perks. Some of them okay, some of them not. Overall, though, not bad when compared to other classes. Lastly, that leaves us to the talents of a Holy Priest. There's a lot of changes, so we're going to start from the top. Notice that 15 and 16 tier have changed. 15, they wanted to have more interaction with priest abilities, Blizzard did, so they just moved 15 up to the top. On the 30 tier, know that Angelic Feather now only increases speed by 60% instead of 80% as it used to be. On the 45 tier, notice that Mindbender actually does regenerate mana. It's the only mana regenerating ability in the game for any type of healer. If it becomes like a required thing to have for Holy Priests and Disc Priests, I guarantee you the mana is going to be cut out of it. They've already reduced the amount of mana it actually returns. If it just becomes too popular, they're just going to remove it. Know that Void Tendrils can break, like Entangling Roots now. You do some damage and then they'll break automatically. Psychic Scream is now in the talent tree. This is a huge PvP nerf. Psyfiend is gone. And Psychic Scream is taking its place, and it has a 15-second increased cooldown. So you're going to have to, spec into it, and then you'll decide, is it worth it with that 45-second cooldown, etc. But it is now a talent. Dominate Mind, know that it also shares diminishing returns with Mesmerize effects. So if you're using Holy Word Chastise, and then you use Dominate Mind, you're going to be, under the same blanket of diminishing returns. So be careful about that. On the level 75 tier, know that you can no longer gain the 15% increased damage and healing after damaging a target below 35%. It's only after you heal a target below 35%. Power Infusion also lost all of its damage increase capabilities. That's all gone. The level 90 tier, we already discussed the cast time change to it, but also know that they now follow standard AoE capping rules, which they did not before, and then also know that they no longer have a damage component. For Holy and Disc, they only have a healing component, and for Shadow, they only have a damaging component, so just know that that change is there. That leaves us with the level 100 talents for Priest. I really like what they've done for the talents for Priests. I think they're pretty good. So, we're going to take a look here. They have Clarity of Purpose, which heals an ally for 6,600, increased up to 100% based on how injured the target is. Also heals up to 5 injured allies within 10 yards of the target for the same amount. Replaces Prayer of Healing. This is actually pretty interesting, because notice that it says 7,300 mana. It replaces Prayer of Healing, which is your mana inefficient AoE heal. That is the Holy Priest's only mana inefficient heal. So if you really need to get the raid up really fast, that's what you use, is Prayer of Mending. Prayer of Healing. But with Clarity of Purpose as your talent, that mana cost isn't as powerful anymore, and it has potential to do some serious healing. So it's definitely going to be an interesting one that I think priests are going to look at, especially when you consider the fact of the component of, depending on how injured the target is. You pick a really injured target in your raid and you heal them with this ability, you're going to get a lot of healing out of it, which is going to be impressive. I mean, these healing target dummies are all at 0, and they get a big bulk of it. So I think it's definitely something PvE healers are really going to look at. Their only other competition is going to be this next one, but I really think this is what they will be looking at for their healing. The next one is Words of Mending, which is your healing and shielding spell casts grant you a stack of Word of Mending when you grant you a Word of Mending. When you gain 10 stacks of Word of Mending, your next targeted healing or shielding spell also casts Prayer of Mending at them. So we can go ahead and use this real quick and stack it up. I'll also show you right here, Prayer of Healing. Mana cost is about the same. Looks like they reduced it in one of the most recent passes. But I'm almost at 10. 10 stacks, here we go. And it shoots out the Prayer of Mending. To be honest, it's kind of underwhelming. It's not my favorite ability. But I think Clarity of Purpose is going to be something that you like a lot more. Just to give you an idea of, I must have been under a buff or something, but Prayer of Healing costs 6,800 mana, and Clarity of Purpose costs 4,400 mana, so it is like a 33% reduction almost in mana cost to grab that Clarity of Purpose, and that is why I just see Priest taking Clarity of Purpose over Words of Mending, which I just think is kind of an okay passive. Last here is Saving Grace, which is going to be the PvP no matter what, whether you like it or not. Saving Grace instantly heals a target for 5,200. It reduces your absorbs and healing done by 10% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 10 times. So I'm going to go ahead and use this on myself. And you can see the numbers begin to drop. So it's like a, an uh-oh button for someone who's really starting to die. But if you use it too much, you'll find yourself doing absolutely no healing, as I'm now doing 518 healing, and that's because I have 10 stacks. You look up in the top right hand corner, I have that debuff on myself. I stop, the debuff will tick off, and then I'll be able to go from there. So, and notice that it's on you, so it's not on the player. You can't, like, you know, stack it up on one person and then switch to another. It's on you. So it's definitely something that PvPers are going to want, because it's like instant heal. I've saved him, but something you need to watch out for, and be careful how much you use it. So that is the talents. I really see PvEers taking Clarity of Purpose, and PvPers taking Saving Grace. Words of Mending is just not quite up there. There are so many mana efficient AoE heals that Holy has that I think they're going to be taken in a lot of raids, just because that ability to push that much healing out without losing that much mana is going to be pretty impressive. So that's everything dealing with Holy Priest. I will see you guys in the next video. Tirelis out.